That isn't sports, they said. When someone told you to stay in your lane, you knew the right answer. The mid. You wish competitors GLHF before the match begins, and hopefully you're dominating more often than not. Video games bring us closer, even when we're apart. And Barclays has seen this. From grassroots teams starting out to the pro circuit players, we're cheering on esports from the virtual stands. We know that gaming's many faces can truly make a positive impact. We're there with you, whether you're making the next great game or just looking forward to playing it. Squad up, we're Barclays.
This weekend at the British University Esports Championship, we have live stage finals. We have hundreds of students here from over 20 universities. 8 weeks of online play have led to this one moment. Just everything you could want in one weekend. It's jam-packed.
The finals were incredible. I walked in today and I was just blown away by just the standard of everything. It's been brilliant. I've had a really good day.
The level of competition here is intense. I've had so much fun participating in the tournament, from the online to the offline events, and to finally come here to finish it all off, I've had a great time.
Then you go on the stage, you see everyone, you see the setup. It's a bit scary, but once you get into that game, it's so intense, you're so focused, and to actually have the crowd there, cheering when you do well, it's a great feeling.
The atmosphere's been super friendly today. It's really nice to see people from different unis getting to talk and link up, playing and getting along with each other, even though at the end of the day we are all competing for that final prize.
It's not only about being really good, competing, being a pro. It's also about the social side of it. This opportunity to meet other people, have fun and make friends.
Competing in the NSE Championship has been an amazing experience. Playing against people the whole season has been amazing, but the event itself has just been top class, really. It was perfect. Glad we grinded it the whole season.
We entered this tournament with not maybe a lot of experience. There's a couple of players on our team who have played at LANs before, but for the majority, none of us have had this opportunity. And obviously we come here today and we've won it, and NSE has enabled us to do that. It's just amazing.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the NSE Games Frenzy Invitational, sponsored by Barclays. My name's Harry, Dr. Evans, and I am joined by Jack, Coach Fenton.
Nice to see everybody who's turned out to watch some Sterling University League of Legends here today. And speaking of this game, this esport title that we're going to be tackling, we thought we'd open up with a little bit of explanation of what that is. So, Harry, why don't you go through the basics for us?
So, League, unfortunately, kind of a complex game. Not one with the easiest barriers to entry, but the absolute short of it is, it's a 5 versus 5 team game where the aim is to take the opponent's base. That's basically a short of it, and you'll see that when we get onto the game, what we call the map, you'll see there's 2 bases, and there'll be 5 people running around fighting each other and trying to do what they can to take the opponent's base. The way you do that is there's a couple of things and actions you can do in the game to get yourself some gold, some moolah, and that can then be spent on getting, a better sword, better armor, whatever it is, which then helps you to achieve that goal of taking the enemy's base. And in a sort of different fashion to traditional sports, League has what you'd call a sort of snowballing effect, where there's an exponential value of gold, right? So you get a bit of gold, and that helps you to get more gold. You know, if you want to like kill your opponents to get gold, having a better sword will help you kill them to get more gold, to get a better sword to get more gold, and so on and so forth. Essentially, every time you score a goal, the goal gets a little bit bigger.
Yep, and as we go through, we'll try and add some little sport analogies as we go along, and football's a pretty good one for League of Legends because, interestingly, you actually watch the game from the same perspective that you actually would watch a football game. It will feel a little bit familiar at first, actually watching top-down, a green pitch, but then it will be very different very fast, and we'll try and guide you as we go through that, and we talk about those different things. And one of the main things that we'll discuss is that gold, and you'll be able to see that at the top in the middle of the screen. So the team that's ahead will have a higher gold value, and you keep an eye on that just to see who's doing better or worse, and they'll improve through basically just trying to match up head to head against their opponent, similarly to how they do in football. There's different positions, and we'll talk that through as we go along.
Yeah, but right now we'll go ahead and take a look at who is going to be playing today. Have a look over at the rosters. We got Carlike with Ernix. They got Treleep. Oh, Treleep back in the jungle position this time around. This guy's he had a bit of a swap. Sort of went from, I don't know, midfield to striker. It looked like, but now he's back in the original position. We again got Fallen Rain, Ali K, and Deep down there in the bot lane.
Yep, and then on the other side we've got Roehampton Odyssey. This team has surreal experience mixed in along with some rookie talent. They've got a scholarship system, these players, so all of these are esports scholars studying a variety of degrees, but they're getting kind of a sponsorship to play League of Legends as part of their degree experience. So in this roster we've got MRG Jojo. That MRG stands for Monster Rugby Gaming, so we have a professional gamer in our midst here. And then as we go down, we've got Disco Cars, Savagery, R7Z, and Necro. Interestingly, we also have a position change as well on both teams. So you mentioned Treleep, and on this side we've got Necro. So they've kind of gone from like an attacking midfield role to like a centre-back pretty much. They very much swapped from mid to support, and they will be looking to facilitate their team rather than lead attacks.
As an aside, the Roehampton have all 5 of them sponsor scholarship now.
All 5 of this roster.
Yep. All 5 are now. Cool. I know it used to be like 3, I think.
There's quite a lot of scholarship students. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the second team members of the League of Legends team are also scholarship students, and it's not just League of Legends either. It's across a few different esports titles. So and they also do diversity scholarships. They actually have a Women Engaged Games scholarship. So there's a few amazing women taking part in that scheme that Roehampton are providing as well. So a real force to be reckoned with for Leicester. But Leicester's recent prowess in League of Legends with this Care Leicester roster has been very, very good. So it's going to be some pretty close games, I think.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at individuals to watch here then, Treleep and Fallen Rain have been around for a while, been playing in various sort of, Div 2 type of leagues. But then, as you already said, Munster Rugby Gaming, Jojo up in the top lane there for Roehampton. He's been around a while, I think 2 years or so. One of the original guys to get that Roehampton scholarship coming through for esports, and he's all around a pretty good player. He's sort of a definition of like your promising new university student. He's not absolutely top of the table or anything like that. He's not the best in the world, but he is showing continual improvement as he goes on and making a very good case for these kinds of esports scholarships. What we had last year with Roehampton is that the Roehampton University team actually played across like 4 or so different leagues, even leagues that didn't require you to be in a university, just like various, sort of not pickup games, but just sort of casual semi-pro leagues. You didn't have to all be going in as a university team, and usually university teams tend to perform a little bit worse than other teams in those leagues where they don't have the same restrictions of needing to go to the same uni. But Roehampton and Jojo, when they would go through these leagues, they sort of cleaned house. I think, did they go 4 for 4 across Newell, NSE, Belong, and did they play UKEL as a roster? I think they all played in UKL for London United or something, right? For Bulldog. For Bulldog.
No, there was Bulldog team was a different university. I think that was Bristol.
No, I'm talking like a year and a half ago, I think.
Really?
Right? where they were London Lionhearts for Belong. They played Newell and NSE as well, and then I think that they were also all signed to a UKEL team that they did quite well with. I don't know. At some point, Roehampton were tearing up a lot of leagues at the same time in League of Legends.
Yeah, and it's just a good demonstration of how university esports can kind of push them through, and even on an individual basis, when you look at the likes of JoJo, for example, they're just working really hard as part of their degree program, and then finding ways to apply that to esports. And I think they graduate this summer as well, so they've been able to just experience esports all the way through their degree program and really make a name for themselves in the local community, and becoming one of those beacons of, this is a way that you can pursue being a player while also picking up a degree and just future-proofing yourself in that way. So it's really exciting and really promising to see. So it's nice to see that we'll get to see some Ro Jojo action in this game. But up against him is Erxie on the other side of the pitch, and he's going to be head-to-head against what is the best player on the enemy team in terms of their online ranking. So there will be some really good fights in the top lane, the veteran versus a spicy rookie. So really nice to see that kind of narrative building up, even just in a one-game series. So what are you really going to be looking out for, and potentially for the viewers at home to keep an eye on?
I'm looking to see what JoJo's going to bust out. I want to see how seriously he's going to take this. As we know, it's sort of a bit of a full-fat match, and JoJo's the kind of guy that has been known to have some, interesting strategies come out. But at the same time, we're also, Lee Sin top, who's one of the characters, Lee Sin, is still pretty strong, and that's something that JoJo has absolutely loved playing. So he might sweat it a little bit and bring out that champion, but he also could just sort of play just about anything and try to have a little bit of fun with it.
Yep. I think there could be a real mix of characters that we see, and we will try and explain those characters when they do come up. But the Lee Sin that you were talking about's karate genius, like a Bruce Lee character, effectively.
Yeah.
And they really bring a unique way of playing the game, because they actually natively come from a different role, so it's kind of diversifies the way the game's played, and they create a real disruption across the whole kind of dynamic of the game.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about League is that, at least, it's kind of been falling off slightly recently, but for the most part, there's a lot of what you call visual clarity, which is you can tell which are the big moves when someone uses them. Every character has, 4, spells or moves that they can do. 3 of them are sort of like standard, and then 1 is the big ticket, the money maker that you can only use every so often. And usually you can tell which are the sort of important things in a game, and you can also tell by looking at a character for the most part what they sort of play like. So that, for example, as we just saw flash up on stream, was Lee Sin, the karate man we were just talking about. And you can sort of tell that he's a martial artist because, he's got hand wraps on and he does some sort of weird stances. You can tell that someone might be a fencer because they have a sort of, fencing pose and they have the rapier and whatnot. And then you say, okay, well, they're probably looking to sort of duel people. So what's going on right now is that there's 150 characters in the game, more or less. And each team gets this sort of opportunity to choose which character they want to play, but right now they're also choosing which characters they don't want anyone to be able to play. So you can ban away 5 characters from each side, and those are characters that nobody will be able to play. And so right now what we're seeing is a couple of characters taken off the table that aren't actually particularly generically strong, but these are what we'd sort of call a target ban. So, for example, as we spoke about the Lee Sin being taken away from JoJo, there's also another character called Fiora that was taken away from Ernst, because Ernst plays almost exclusively that character, so you really don't want to be giving him that one.
And speaking of target bans, they've also picked 2 characters out specifically to ban against Savagery for Roehampton, who's the highest online ranked player on their roster. So you do tend to kind of target who you think the enemy team really wants to play, because that person's really good at that character, and try and disable them from doing that. Because if you have a lot of hours playing a certain character, you're going to just be better on that character regardless of the situation. So they're just taking them off comfort, making the game easy for themselves as we open up with that Rumble pick.
So you get a lot of unique characters in here, and if someone has a lot of hours on them, you want to make sure you get them away from that comfort. Right now, what we're seeing is this character locked in by Jojo called Rumble. That's something that Desco is pretty confident playing. If you were to take a look at his stats at the last couple of games he's been playing online, that's a character that comes up a lot. Because right here, people aren't actually picking characters for themselves. You sort of pick in order and you can swap around and we'll see who ends up with what on their respective teams. So right now, that first pick coming through of the Rumble will not be played by Jojo most likely. And then also we look over at the other side and we've got, Kai'Sa, which is... Okay, wait, so now Traleep's back in bot lane. Okay, there was an issue with the graphic. Traleep is playing ADC. Okay, so your boy Traleep plays... He's playing a different role. He's playing more striker now, whereas he used to play, I don't know, sort of like midfield. But he plays exclusively this character, Kai'Sa, when he plays this striker position. So interesting that was actually let through by Roehampton. And we'll see how he performs on it, because I've always known him to be... just to play a completely different position.
Yep, and when you kind of become an expert at a single character, it does give you a real advantage. So what I kind of tried to allude at first, and we've got more of that, so we'll continue to talk about it, is that once you have a lot of comfort and a certain way of playing the game and playing a certain character, you just have an advantage. So because all of these characters, as Harry really well explained earlier, have basically 4 abilities, different moves, spells that they can click. Those skills are good in some situations and bad in others. So if you're against a certain character, your Q button very little against the enemy because they're built in a certain way where it doesn't hurt them too much. But when you're really good at that character, you learn ways to negotiate those kinds of interactions and just get good regardless of the context. So we'll see a little bit of that in this game in terms of them being in a position where they are actually an expert of what they'll be doing.
Yeah, something else to note is that, again, another ban taken away from Jojo. He really loves that set, the last character to flash up on the screen there. Characters tend to sort of fall under one of 3 categories. You can basically be offensive, defensive, or have a bit of more utility-oriented approach. And utility comes in 2 fashions. You're either denying your opponents by forcing them to sort of stand in place. You can stop them from being able to attack or use their abilities, or you can take a more supportive role in the name of assisting your own team by, giving them various sort of what you call buffs, which are essentially just things that up their numbers. Or, you can heal them up a bit of extra health, you can give them some sort of shield, things like that. And we'll try to do our best to explain this as it goes on, but right now it's looking like both teams are sort of relatively well-rounded in terms of their offensive and defensive capabilities.
Yep, it makes it a little bit easier in terms of to explain. They're not doing anything that's really crazy, but what we'll tend to see is there'll be in fights where one character on each team will kind of have a dedicated role, like start the charge. They'll run in with their shield or their anchor in the case of Nautilus on the left-hand side, and they'll try to run into the enemy team, be first, because they can take more hits and hold enemies in one place, while the rest of their team just beat them up with their abilities. And
luckily I think in the bot lane we've got a prime example of what we were talking about earlier with visual clarity. One of these characters, Nautilus, is a sort of deep sea diver. So you imagine a sort of old, Victorian pressure suit. He's that, and he's got a massive anchor. You do not need to know a lot about League of Legends to know that if a massive anchor is flying towards you, you don't want to be hit by it, right? And so Nautilus, as a big, beefy boy, plays that more defensive role, more utility, because he just essentially breaks people's legs whenever he walks into them, right? So you need to be a little bit worried about him. Likewise, over on the other side, we see this character, Braum, who's a dude with a massive shield. The shield is part of his identity. So what do you know? He's probably quite defensive in terms of what he can do with that shield. So again, hopefully these characters are a bit... an easy way to tell, in terms of visual clarity, who's doing what. The physically bigger the character is, the more defensive they probably are. There are if they are physically massive, they're probably quite good at getting hit, and that's something that should be somewhat apparent in the game.
Yeah, and in terms of visual clarity, it pretty much applies vice versa as well. You'll see that the ones doing the damage, in an old school term, glass cannons, They deal a lot of damage, but if they get hit, they will die.
Yeah.
So they need to be really careful, and they will tend to be a slightly smaller character model.
Yeah.
Even to add to even more visual clarity, Rumble, the first pick that got locked in, literally runs around with a flamethrower. And I think that's quite self-explanatory in terms of cooking the enemy, dealing lots of damage, but they're quite volatile. So it's all about negotiating those relationships, and it's a really good opportunity. And this is why University Esports is so great in terms of team building and communication skills that you have to learn, because you have to negotiate all these different roles that you're playing and activate those in order to win the game. And they'll constantly be communicating about, okay, I need you to be in front of me because if I step too far forwards, I will die, or vice versa. And making sure that they're constantly communicating and team building and learning these synergies that can really be applied in quite diverse skill sets in terms of general life.
Yeah, sure. So as far as the game itself goes, right now we have about a sort of 3-minute delay, which is hard enforced by the game to stop people essentially being able to cheat by opening the stream and seeing where the opponents are. It's not something we can turn off. It's just, it happens every single game. So we'll have to wait for that one to run out. But the players should be starting the game up in real time right about now. We, as the spectators, just have to wait a few minutes. But that gives us a bit of time to sort of explain a little bit more about the game. Again, hopefully it makes a little bit more sense when you see it. But right now, as you may have seen in the previous screen, the map itself is essentially a big square. And it's a square with a diagonal line cutting straight up the middle. If we can get that up on the screen, that's pretty useful. Oh, there it is. What a banger.
Beautiful.
So, as you can see, the map itself makes up a square. You see the bases is one's covered up by Coach's ugly mug in the bottom left corner, but in the top right, you'll see another base there. And essentially, you can see these sort of beige lines going around the edges and the corners. So there's one line straight down the middle, and then one on either side. And how it's going to work out is that the players will go into those corridors, what you call lanes, and you'll have one person from each team up in the top one, one person from each team in the middle one, and then you actually have 2 people from each team go into the bottom, and the remaining 5th man walks around in this sort of jungle area between the two and goes to sort of help out around the map as and when they see fit.
And they divide up in a really quite logical way. So down in the bottom, it's most interestingly, there's 2 people there. And that's where you have that glass cannon that we were just talking about. So you partner up someone who has the protective capabilities to keep alive that really delicate high damage dealing and effectively the striker, right? They score the goals in the most basic sense, and then you need protectors and facilitators around there. And there's different ways of going about that. Sometimes you have the other person's more of a kind of like an attacking midfielder that kind of provides them with opportunities to score more goals. But what we've got here in this game is a much more traditional and easy to digest system where it's kind of like having 2 forwards in your team, and one of them's like a big, dude, and the other one's your agile kind of youngster. And that's pretty much what we've got here. Draven and Nautilus. Draven will be trying to deal lots of damage and dodge all the incoming dangers, while Nautilus will be holding them still with the anchor, locking them in place. And then the same will be happening on the other side with Kaiser shooting little shards of energy out, and Braum will be standing there with his massive shield.
Yeah, so hopefully the bottom lane should be quite easy to digest for what's going on. Because as we've already spoken about, that's where Nautilus and Braum are, who are probably the 2 characters that are the most, easy to understand in this game. As for, that sort of split up in the bot lane, it should be quite fun to watch because Draven, the character of Draven is he's a gladiator that takes, great pride in his work. So he's very flashy and very proud. And so he wants to play forward, play very aggressive. We spoke about snowballing earlier, the idea that, getting more gold gets you more gold, and as the snowball rolls down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and grows exponentially. Draven actually has extra elements of that built into his what you call kit, basically as part of the character. He has snowballing effects, and so the way that this will sort of work is Draven himself is very much a all or nothing character, right? You either get that snowball going and you're incredibly strong, or you don't get the snowball going and suddenly you're essentially missing part of the character, because what other characters have said, this ability or this skill is useful for doing damage or for doing, for being defensive, being utility focused. Draven just has an ability that only exists to snowball. So if the Draven doesn't snowball, he's just sort of missing power. So we'll have to keep our eyes down there in that bottom lane to see how that one pans out, because it should be a point of focus for both teams.
Yep. And then on the complete other side of the map, in the top lane, that's where it tends to be the most isolated. You end up having a proper 1v1, very head-to-head battle. And in those sorts of situations, what we're going to have right in front of us is one big, beefy red dude fighting a pirate, effectively. That's in the most basic of sense. And the pirate's going to basically, in a very pirateering sense, try and build up gold for themselves. So inside their kit, in the way their character's designed, is when they kind of, as the game goes on, they collect a little bit more gold than the enemies would through some specific kind of interactions in the game. So they'll just try and beat up the big red person and collect as much gold as they can, and the later the game goes, the stronger they will get. So there's two... So that creates two different ways of playing the game. This Roehampton side, they want to fight lots and make the game move really quickly. So they want to win the game really soon. And the more minutes that you have and the longer that the game goes on, the easier it will get for Leicester, whose team is built to get stronger and stronger as the game goes on. So this is a very typical kind of League of Legends strategy. You have early game teams, is what we call them. We have late game teams. So as a general sense of the game, it's quite likely that Leicester actually fall behind on gold. But they can make, those last minute, score those extra time goals by just waiting out and being patient.
So not all characters are created equal. Not everyone uses gold as effectively as the others. Otherwise, the game would get pretty boring, right? There's 150 characters, so there's a bit of variance. Some teams and some characters are just more effective without gold or with a little bit of gold. And so what you'll see is, you get characters that are very strong early on when the gold is little. But as the game goes on, comparatively, they are weaker. And this means that Roehampton do have the pressure on them. Even Savagery there in the mid lane playing this champion of Kiana is also someone that does very well early, does very well with a small amount of gold, but as the game goes on, they will be comparatively weaker unless they can snowball themselves ahead. So there's pressure on Roehampton to get stuff going. However, here we are on the map. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. This is what it looks like. And there's nothing particularly spicy happening right now. You can see that Savagery, actually on the wrong half of the map, as a blue team player, he's moving up into the red team half, and that's to get a little bit of vision. As you'll see looking around the map, there are some sort of dark spots, which are in what we call fog. And if we can get the observers to just sort of toggle the vision of both teams to show what fog is, because we can... Okay, brilliant. So what we see right now is what anyone on the blue team can see. And essentially, where you don't have people on your team, or these little things called wards, which we can explain later, you can't see. And then if we toggle over to the red team's vision, you'll see the same, that they can see where their own players are, but they cannot see into the enemy territory, as right now they have no idea what's going on the screen right here, because there is fog in the way. And you get rid of fog by walking up seeing it. As spectators, we can see both teams' perspectives.
Yep. So we get kind of the god view. We get to see everything that's going on, but they have to be very careful about playing around these fog of war, and that's why the jungle role exists. They play by hiding. They try and stealth their way into certain positions and get themselves advantages by surprising the enemy team and pushing fights one way or the other that may, as they hope, advantage themselves. And we're seeing a bit of fighting going down here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, we got a bit of a scuffle, but already Fordham Rain actually moving down from his position in the middle lane very, very early on, but it works out. He gets himself that kill for the team on the bottom side, and they've already taken out Gok 2000, which is very, very good for Careless. So again, as we said, this is the lane you want to get snowballing. This is where Roehampton want to put their early pressure, but Fordham Rain with a very, very unexpected move from his own lane in the middle lane down to the bottom lane. That's something that happens quite often, but never really this early on in the game due to the opportunity cost. But it's worked out pretty well for his team, and he won't actually miss all too much because of it.
Yeah, that's a really exciting move there. You don't get to see that often. It's very unique to certain situations. They have to have all of the parts of the recipe just come up perfectly, and they did. They were able to execute on that, pick themselves up. And what we see on the map here, you see this big blue kind of with blue-red, 5 blue-red bars or on the map. Those big towers, those, if you go inside those and they're not your own, they deal loads of damage to you.
Yes.
So they have to play around those, and you have to destroy these towers, and they're part of the base. And the more you destroy, the closer you get to the enemy team's kind of center structure, which is called a nexus, and you try and destroy that. So that's the overarching goal of the game. And what was interesting there is that we saw that Fallen Rain was able to get under there and take loads of damage from the tower, but they were skillful enough to not quite die there, which is just another credit to how well executed that play was.
Yeah, again, these towers sort of serve as safety nets early on in the game for teams, but they don't get any gold. So as the game goes on, they do become sort of less and less of a threat, but still, you do have to put a little bit of respect on them. As the game seems to be, calming down a little bit, but what we are seeing is that on the bottom half of the map again, R7 and Gork are sort of pushing up into the enemy territory, and Ali K is on their way down to this half of the map. So there is an opportunity for another potential fight down here. You can see that Fallen Rain is not actually walking down, but he's pretending like he might be, which is something that has to be a little bit scary for Roehampton when they can't see him. So play it back a little bit. Something else to point out that is unfortunately a bit confusing is that there are essentially the way that that the developers of the game make money, as this game is free for anyone to play, is they sell little customizations. They sell what you call skins that make a character look different. For example, here we see Deep Deep 7 is dressed up like a luchador, as opposed to his sort of traditional. Is meant to be quite a sort of wintry, icy focused character, but now he's walking around with a folding chair and a lion mask. That can make it a bit hard to figure out who's who, but there's a bit of a fight going on. Steve D just flashing straight over the wall, trying to put a stun down to lock up Desco, but it won't be enough as Traleep will pick up that kill, and now Fallen Rain has once again joined into the fight and secured another kill for the team. Meanwhile, Jojo is actually teleported down to come join the fight, but Ernex does have his cannon barrage available to stop this one if he needs to, but he doesn't. So Jojo actually committing a huge amount, but actually Savagery just picking up a cheeky solo kill there up against Fallen Rain, bringing the score back a little bit for his team. But again, Jojo has committed a lot to join this fight, and the opportunity cost is absolutely massive. This means that Ernex is going to get a very big advantage over Jojo individually in a matchup where we can see by those numbers sort of in the middle, at the bottom of your screen, 24 minions for Jojo versus 52 for Ernex. That's a great indicator of individual strength. Ernex is already having a good time in isolation in 1 versus 1, and Jojo tried to make up for this by leaving and going to help the team, but it didn't really work out for him, and now he has to be a little bit worried up there. Yep,
and it's a really good indicator. It's basically head to head. Every time they kill one of these little red things, you can see the Nautilus there just bonking them, and you see a little bit of gold come over. You'll see it right there. Bank for the plus 14.
14 gold.
That's gold going into their pockets that they can use on those swords and shields and other more unique strategical aspects. And the more of those that you have, the stronger your character is, and you try and push those advantages. And what we're seeing is lots of fighting, and every time they're fighting, they're getting gold through killing each other. So that's effectively how they try and work around that economy. And we can see that Care Leicester have built themselves up this lead. They're 3 kills to 1 up. They're 1,500 gold ahead. And that's really quite a big advantage at 7 minutes into the game. So a lot of credit has to be given to them as the way they're playing around. And if you have a look now, Leicester have actually grouped up to take down an objective. And every time they kill one of these dragons, which are quite hard to kill, you have to group up as a team and have very good teamwork to take one down. But when you do, it gives you a permanent advantage. So that was an air drake, which means that they'll basically move a little bit faster for the rest of the game.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, these you get these sort of neutral objectives which spawn in those two little circles in that river. The dragon being one of them that was just taken, and the other one, hopefully someone's about to walk past. Yeah, Desco should walk past it any second now. Is he actually going to do it? Yeah, he might.
I think he is going to do it.
Yeah, they're going to do it. So this is another one of these neutral objectives, they're called, which are basically big monsters. Either team can fight, and either team can kill, and if you kill them, you get a advantage for your team in some capacity. Usually they're quite a catalyst for activity, which is why you send 2 people down into the bottom lane, as opposed to 1 in mid and 1 in top. Because that means you have more people on that half of the map to fight for that neutral objective. But right now, we have to be a little bit worried if we're on the side of Roehampton here, because having lost a couple of fights, they're at a disadvantage, and that means that, yeah, Deep and Traleep will just walk up to them and punish them for not respecting those two. And that is another kill going over to their side. And meanwhile, Savagery does trade it back on the other side of the map in the mid lane, gets himself a kill. But now Desco and Savagery are sprinting to see if they can't save R7, who's getting in a bit of a 3 versus 1 situation. He buys himself some time, and he hasn't fallen yet. Very important on Draven to not die as part of the snowball mechanic we spoke about earlier, unique to that character. But he actually gets out of that one alive, and the punishment comes on through. Savagery picks up another kill, so Savagery in a really good spot. And they also blow 2 really big abilities from KLS. That's the teleport from Fallen Rain, and the sort of cannon barrage that you saw come through there from Ernex. These are abilities that have, you know, cooldowns in the minutes, which means that you can only use them every couple of minutes, where most abilities in the game are sort of in the sort of 5 to 10 second range.
Yeah, so you have 2 sets of so while we've got a little bit calm, we'll talk about kind of how it feels to play the game in terms of those spells. So you're clicking buttons on a keyboard and you're moving your mouse around. It's not a controller-based game, and when you're using your buttons, Q, W, E, R is typically what the player uses to click their normal abilities. But then you have 2 extra ones, which are called summoner spells, and those allow you to do bigger and more game-impactful things.
Yes, and they're what you see on the far right and the far left there. Those 2 icons next to each player's name and next to their health and whatnot. Yeah.
So and most of the time you take flash, because that basically allows you to jump, immediately jump a really small distance, and you can use that to dodge really easily. But that takes about 5 minutes to come back up.
It's a very big one, yeah.
And it's a very big one. It's a very important one. So when it gets very strategic, teams will track those. They'll write them down in the chat and record that as we see another scrap going down. But it's just getting worse and worse for Roehampton Odyssey's bottom lane duo.
Yeah, so
and better for Traleep and Deep.
So this is a prime example of how this snowball works. Again, R7 overstepping a little bit there, but if we look down at the bottom, we'll see in that sort of bottom middle section of the screen, that's the scoreboard essentially for both sides. And you can see that Traleep, he has 4 kills, 0 deaths, and 1 assist. He's doing very well for himself, and he has a 30 creep advantage and 30 minion advantage. And what that means is, as we said, you use your gold to get more gold. You use it to get better swords, you know, better armor, whatever. And Traleep has finished his first sort of full item. The way items go is you get lots of small parts, you know, like a couple of small swords, and you put them together to get one big sword. Traleep has got himself that one big sword, and the way the game works is everyone has sort of one big ticket item that you get first, and then you accentuate that with other extra bits. And Traleep has already finished his big item at 11 minutes in, which is not very usual. Usually takes a lot longer, and R7 is not having a good time because of it. As meanwhile in the mid lane, there's action across the board. It's hard to catch. Ordinarily, teams play a bit more controlled, and you don't just have people sort of dying individually, or, you know, teams making moves on opposite sides of the map at the same time. Which is why we're sort of, people keep dying off screen because we're like, oh, there's something going on the bot side. And then because teams aren't taking this game too seriously, there'll be something else going on in the mid lane as well.
And what's really interesting too is that you often get focuses kind of matched by both teams, or completely, all the 2 teams will do completely. Oh my word!
Oh, Desco's oh, he's chilling. He's absolutely chilling. He's very low on the health bar there. 10 HP as you see it in the bottom left there. Whew. That's so low. But once again, Ali K he's just coming straight back bot because he knows this is the weak point on the map. Yeah, he knows that this is where the opponents are weak and where his team is strong. You see a couple of big ticket abilities come out. Deep. Oh, great shield there to block off some of that damage from R7, and a lot is burnt from both sides, but fortunately for Roehampton, nobody really going down just yet. However, what they do, or what Leicester do, is they force out the members of Roehampton, do a lot of damage to them, make them have to go back to their base, and that means that Leicester can secure themselves this second dragon of the game. And these dragons, again, they give you permanent buffs. They're very important. Once you kill the first two, the map sort of changes a little bit, which is why we'll see a bit of a color change come on through here, and some walls will start disappearing. And when you get... essentially, each dragon gives you a very small bonus. Pretty negligible, a couple of percent on some numbers here and there. But if one team gets 4 of them, then they get essentially a game-winning type of bonus. Kind of like... there's a couple of effects in the game that are a bit like the Golden Snitch from Harry Potter, and getting 4 dragons is one of them. Leicester on a pretty good path to do that, as they've already secured themselves 2.
Yep, and that sets them up, and it changes the whole map, as Harry pointed out there. And we've got an infernal map, which means some walls have disappeared, and all the remaining dragons will be fire dragons, which, if they get, basically massively boost the damage that these characters will deal. And that means that we'll see more explosive fights, faster scraps, and people dying a little bit quicker when those start to get picked up, and it means that the pace of the game will speed up, which would normally be good for Roehampton. But because they've fallen behind early,
hang about.
It
A
may
bit of
end up
action
going
coming
in
out,
wrong.
though, as Gork overstepping a bit, and Treleep's just diving on in, immediately forced to flash away. This could be the turnaround that Roehampton need, but no, Treleep finds that first kill, actually picking up a second as well, but Jojo has come to join the fight alongside the very strong Savagery, who easily picks up 2 kills, their big shutdown as well, taking down Treleep, and he looks to grab himself a third. Maybe they can donate it over to R7, who desperately needs the money, but it looks like Fallen Rain is actually going to get out of that one alive, and... bit of an overcommitment from Leicester there, and once again Jojo coming across the map to join in and help out his team, because he's playing a bit of a more, supportive, a bit more defensive role that can do with losing a bit of money individually to help out the team. And we've been talking a lot about the bottom half of the map, how R7 and Gork are losing out to Treleep and Deep very much so, and they're not in the situation you want to be in, especially as R7's character. As we said, he's very strong early and needs to get the snowball going. However, Savagery is very similar, but they are strong early and they get this snowball effect going very well as well. And Savagery has been doing really well in the middle lane and roaming around as well, making strong plays individually, getting an advantage which he is now levering onto the other areas of the map, as we can see by his score of 5 and 0, 5 kills, 0 deaths. Very nice, and it means that because of what he's been able to achieve in the middle lane, taking down a tower and also doing good damage to a tower on the top side, that although there was a very big advantage for Leicester early on, it actually got evened out up until about a minute ago when that tower fell, that the gold and essentially the score, as you can see, 27.3 versus 27.6, that's basically the same. That's close enough to being even, and so a good comeback for Roehampton.
Yep, a really nice comeback, and it's at this point in the game where actually you'd favour Roehampton in fights, because their characters are better suited to fighting in the earlier stage of the game. You'd still consider 16 minutes quite early. About 25 minutes is normally considered the middle of the game. And it's around that point that you start to get a lot of fights, and some teams are more or less favoured depending on the leads they've been able to get themselves. But on a less strategic note, we talked about skins earlier on, and in the middle of our screen, you can see Savagery here recalling, doing a little spin on their weapon here, and that skin was actually partnered with Louis Vuitton, so that character's actually donning some LV garms and showing those off, and that's a really hard to get skin. It's quite rare. You have to earn it.
Rare is subjective. It's not hard to get. It just costs 20 quid.
Yeah, it costs some money, right?
It was limited edition, is what it was.
Limited edition. That's what I mean.
That's
right?
how they get you.
Not everybody has that, and it's hard, and you can't get it anymore, sort of thing, unless
speak
you get really
of the
lucky.
devil, because Savagery is once again trying to make something proactive happen on the map. See if he can put a bit of damage out onto Fallen Rain, but doesn't want to go too hard underneath that turret. As we said about earlier, those turrets are pretty dangerous, especially early on.
And you could see there that Savagery, playing that Louis Vuitton character, is so strong right now, and they've got themselves such an advantage that they can click one button onto an enemy and get them down to 50% health points. So it means that they can just makes such a difference. Imagine if they click 2 buttons, right? They would just take them out.
Imagine.
So they need to be really careful when Savagery's in the area, because they can pick out one single character and effectively assassinate them immediately.
Comparatively, Treleep is in a very similar situation, so I have to keep an eye on those. As Fallen Rain gets a real nice ultimate, cutting off the river there, separating out the fight a lot, but Descola's doing very similar work. Deep getting out on just a sliver of health as Jojo trying to see who he can punch on down before he falls. The Savagery is making their way around the side. They're playing a character well known for their flanking abilities, and that's exactly what they're trying to do here. Going on to Ernix, who has a little bit of healing, and actually has enough healing to get that kill and take them down in response. It's a 1-for-1, but big moves for Ernix to secure that kill, because now Savagery isn't taking out the remaining members of Roehampton. Fortunately for Roehampton, they have enough damage to win out the fight without Savagery, but now they have to be a little bit worried as Fallen Rain uses that long cooldown teleport ability to once again rejoin the fight. Desco is trying to see if he can't put out a couple of slows just to stop Fallen Rain from joining in, but with Fallen Rain missing out one of his abilities there, he's not able to catch up. However, again, Desco and Gork are too low to join in a fight here, and the 3rd out of 4 dragons is now available, and Carelester are in a good position to take it.
Yep.
Having said
however,
that,
they are disorganized. Well, if you can look down on the bottom right-hand of the screen, you can see where everyone is on the map, and they've actually got 4 out of 5 of their members around that dragon already. So they've got what we call the inside track. They're there first. They're able to fight. Which means that Leicester have to be careful. They can't commit people there, because if they did, they'd have got grouped up and ganged up on, and we're going to see some people resetting.
Oh, Savagery putting out some big damage, and there it is as well. That's what happens when he presses more than one button. But now Treleep is trying their hand at the fight, knowing that Savagery just used their damage to take out Fallen Rain, means that Treleep is happy to go on in. Now R7 a little bit too far up, and again he will fall, not getting the snowball that he wants. And now Jojo joining into the fight alongside Desco and Gork. They're putting out some good damage, and Treleep also again used some high timing abilities in that fight to take out Savagery, which means that Gork can take out Treleep. And you start to see how the interplay works out here as Roehampton clean up the fight, punishing Carelester for their overcommitments, and are able to now grab this dragon, which greatly helps them deny this 4-dragon objective for Leicester.
Yep, it really stops them getting all of their kind of combined force.
This is big.
Just getting really, really strong. So it's a really big win. What else is interesting about that is we talked about the beefy, big characters that can live for a really long time.
He probably just dies here, right?
Maybe...
Oh, what's going on down below? Oh, Jojo, he's pretty low. I mean, Gork cannot get into the fight. There's a wall in the way, so he's just kind of lurking over the wall, and Fallen Rain more than able to take out Jojo. Again, Jojo, a very defensive-oriented character, and with Fallen Rain being someone who's very good at taking long fights on this Silas character, that means he's absolutely chilling.
So what you saw there with Gork being stuck on that side of the wall is a feature that's unique to some champions. So when you click your spell buttons...
Does it matter too much in this game? Okay, so there's only like 3 characters in this game that can actually go over walls.
The interesting one.
Yeah,
so
Savagery's the big one.
Dashes a lot, so they can jump a lot and they can jump over walls, and that means that they can play the game in a unique way. And we're probably going to see this there.
I don't think he needs to go over any walls here to take out Ernix. Instead, he just drops the ultimate. Ernix already having that shield completely blown through, losing out on that shield bow there, and just another pick up for Savagery off the bat. And something that we didn't speak about too much, but is important to note, is as we've mentioned, there's a snowball effect in this game. More gold gets you more gold. And a way that the developers have put into the game to counteract this, to make it not be that if something goes wrong 3 minutes in, the game is completely over, is that if you are the person that has a lot of kills and is snowballing without being stopped, you start to become worth more and more gold when you are taken down. As we see here, there's 150 gold is the bounty, so to speak. There's extra money put on Savagery's head. So if anyone kills Savagery, they'll get a little bit of extra money. And he's already been taken out twice, and so a lot of extra cash has actually gone over to, I think it was Ernix both times that got the kill on him. So we got to keep an eye on when these important members do go down the fight, as Fallen Rain, who's 1-6, not that much of an important member, not worth that much money, but still a little bit of something extra secured for Desco and Jojo. But with Desco and Jojo being on the bottom half of the map, we could see Leicester try to force something out. But again, Leicester don't really need to. As we've said before the game started, in terms of if this game went completely even, which it basically is right now, Leicester are the ones that can be happy with that. They're coming up on finishing their 3rd items, and because of just how the items they've built work, this is a very, very big moment for Ernix and Treleep when those are finished, and we'll let you know when that happens. And so they are, Leicester, pretty much just trying to wait and do nothing if they can get away with it for the next, 3 minutes or so, because once they hit those sort of, what you call a spike in their power, they'll then look to take a lot of fights. And the job of Savagery right now is to take out those key members or to delay the game just by getting enough kills to slow the game down that Leicester don't really hit those spikes at the times they would like to.
Yep, so they're just going to keep taking their time. We'll see two very different ways of playing the game. Roehampton will be looking for opportunities to scrap every single time. Anytime they see an opportunity, they will jump, they will pounce, and they were trying to get fights happening, whereas Leicester are more likely to be careful. You can see how far back they're standing, even though they're grouped up in numbers there. They didn't even want to walk up and hit that tower to take down some structures and get into the enemy base. That's not what they care about right now. They just want to take their time, save their money, and invest that into later on in the game where they'll be much more useful. Whereas Roehampton, that's not the case. They're going to start getting into positions where they can force fights. And we've seen it a couple times, but not actually pointed it out. But MRG Jojo, his character has an ability that...
Oh, there we are. Never mind. Ernix just not getting out alive. Desco taking him out with that equalizer dropped on down. A little bit hard to see, but pretty big, important ability. However, Ernix does fall a minute before the dragon, and just as... your abilities have a time before they are castable again. So do players. As Ernix, you see, he's got about 25 seconds before he appears on the map again. And bearing in mind the dragon, as we see in the top left, will spawn in about 40 seconds. It's not actually too big of a deal for Leicester for Ernix to fall there. The bigger deal is going to be how he rejoins this fight. But
we might
we've got a couple of shenanigans going on from Leicester. Okay, there's essentially 3 types of golden snitch in this game. One of
this is the most
dragons.
golden snitch.
No, this is like the second one. What comes after 4 dragons is the biggest one. This is the second golden snitch, and Leicester have just completely snuck it away. It's so crazy that they would attempt it here, because the odds of them just losing the game outright because Ernix was not alive, it's a 5 versus 4. But they know that Roehampton are all on the other side of the map. They know that Roehampton can't get to them very quickly, so they just go and do it. They take down that big purple worm. Yes, it costs them the dragon, which will be taken away by Roehampton, and again, that removes KR Leicester from their 4 dragons, win condition. But they can be pretty relatively happy with that one, especially if they weren't going to try and fight with Ernix down. Now they have the Baron, they have the buff. Treleep and Ernix have both got that 3rd item that we were talking about. We've also got the 2nd items, big ones being finished for Alike and Fallen Rain. So KR Leicester not too unhappy about fighting here, but Fallen Rain's on the wrong half of the map.
Oof, we see a fight almost start there, and they're just not quite able to execute, so they get themselves in these positions where they click all their buttons, try and make something happen, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Roehampton want to start fights, do things, get stuff happening, and Savagery might pick himself out a little 1v1 here, trying to assassinate Fallen Rain, and miss a really key ability there, as you saw the lines coming up on the
big
outside
explosions
of the
is
terrain.
the big ability.
Normally the bigger the explosion, the more important it is. But there's one thing I want to talk about as they're stacking up these dragons, is that I mentioned it earlier, these fire drakes give them lots of damage. And some characters do really well when their damage is amplified. And one of those characters is Rumble, which is being played by Descorol.
Not just the Rumble, but also the Savagery on the Kiana, who Savagery is in position to get a flank here, but he did just use that big ability. The Supreme Display of Talent is the name, now Gorgork's actually just in the middle of 5 people. He's a little bit keen. Gorgork going very early before the rest of his team can follow up, but Savagery has now arrived, and Desco putting out big damage onto the rest of the squad as well. It means that Gorgork's sacrifice may not have been in vain, as 2 kills are secured. Make it 3, a triple kill for Savagery, doing so well here on the Kiana. and taking out many a member of Leicester.
An absolutely textbook equalizer. So we mentioned it earlier, that big rectangle, big red rectangle.
Oh, it's kind of hard to see. You gotta say.
It was difficult to see. It was difficult to see in that fight. We saw it drop down earlier to just kind of finish somebody off. But if you stand,
big damage. Yeah.
If you stand on that little bit of ground, basically it's on fire, and you will get
a carpet bomb.
And that's what we watched there. They just got carpet bombed, and what Gork did there, where they jumped in on their own before the rest of the team was there,
savagery.
is they expended their life.
Hang about. Savagery could be in a bit of a sticky situation here. See if they can't take out Treleap before they fall, but Savagery will be going. Oh! Okay, bad times for Leicester, kind of. Alright. Savagery thought he was being a little bit sneaky, but he was actually spotted out in the enemy territory, and so 3 members come to collapse on him. As we saw there, it was 8 plus 850 gold when he went down because he had a big bounty, as we spoke about earlier, but Deep was the one... Ooh, Jojo gets a solo
word, the solo
That's a lot of damage. But Deep was the person to finish the kill on Savagery. He did the last bit of damage to secure that kill, and that means that Deep is the one who cashes in on the
bounty.
On the bounty. He got all the extra gold, which sounds all well and good, but Deep's kind of not who you want it on, because they're playing this more supportive role. Again, you want to put your money into Ernx and into Treleap, who are these late game damage champions that do very well with gold. So although Savagery did die and hand over a lot of gold, it could have been a lot worse for Roehampton.
And it's a very interesting part.
R7, but why has R7 got Collector, man? 0-3. You're not snowballing. It's not happening.
And that's a really interesting aspect of the game.
We don't need to explain that part too much.
Yeah, maybe that's a bit too specific, I reckon. It's annoying, but it's a bit too specific. But it's an interesting part of the game is that not only do you want to have more money, you want to allocate your assets better. You want to have it on those characters that do all the damage. And normally that would be just normally that's your ADCs. And there's an interesting situation here with Roehampton is that R7Z got really far behind and they just accepted that. They're like, sorry, you're not going to be the most important character anymore.
Yes.
You just have to try and do what you can, and we're going to give all the kills, give the advantages to other members and let them push those advantages. So, and they're doing a good job of that. They've made an adaptation.
Ooh. A little bit worried for him.
Oh, here we are. We've
the
seen
fight is
that
actually kicking out, but we're going on to the big shield man of Deep, so he will be pretty safe, pretty happy, and you can see a lot of explosions dropping. That usually means a lot of big things. Ali K coming in for a good flank position, and Treleap staying alive is putting out a lot of damage, but not for long, as Desco and R7 are able to secure that kill, and now with only Ernx remaining, he cannot get through the defense of Jojo. And again, another one fight for Roehampton right next to the Dragon. First they were down 2, now they've picked themselves up 3 in a row, and now they are the ones that will be moving on towards this sort of spooky 4th Drake Golden Snitch win condition.
So, and that was such an exciting fight because we saw this character that's here in the middle of the screen, Rumble, just able to use that flamethrower to its absolute max, just run into the enemy team and absolutely cook everybody. The carpet came down in the perfect location, and they just run in. And interestingly, most abilities in the game shoot towards where your mouse is, right? Whereas with Rumble, when they start off the fire, it just faces the way your character's facing. So you have to click a lot and you have to make sure that you're getting everything correct. And they did that. So a lot of kudos has to be given to Desco.
Yeah, Rumble's quite unique and quite hard. And also, a little bit of extra kudos, I guess, as a bit of trivia here for Desco, is that Rumble is quite new to the position that Desco plays. You know, there's lots of characters. Some of them can only be played in certain positions and fill certain roles in a team. Some can be played in multiple. And it's only very recently that Rumble has been able to be played in Desco's position, and he's a very unique character, so when you see someone that plays this position doing well on that character, it's usually a good sign for them, because again, there's not he has a lot of unique elements to him, and that means that there's not a lot of transferable skills that go over to piloting that character. However,
kudos has to... Oh, hang on, we're going to have a fight starting. I'm going to hand over to you here as we see it teleport into the backline.
Oh my god, okay, Savagery just obliterating Treleap. And that's exactly what his job is. as the assassin player here to just remove Treleep. And that is absolutely huge because we've seen in the fights that it's always Jojo and Desco that are the last to live on Roehampton. Carelester are struggling to get through these larger defensive units, and Treleep was really the only person that was able to do so. However, the brand getting low, it is secured. The Golden Snitch picked up for Desco, and now the fight continues. A great big equalizer. That's the carpet bomb putting out some huge damage onto the Leicester side, and the fight is absolutely cleaned out. That is the kind of fight that Roehampton live for with this composition. You get everyone in a choke point and drop the carpet bomb alongside everything else on top of them. They clean out the members of Leicester, leaving only 2 standing. They pick themselves up that Golden Snitch, and now they make their way to start breaking down the opponent's base.
Oh, lovely hook!
Looks for another engage. Treleep is alive this time, trying to find the 1v1 onto R7, but he's committed so much. The exhaust and the ultimate big cooldown abilities that don't really get him all too much, as now he's being zoned out by the equalizer. But the equalizer is a little bit off from where it needs to be. However, with Treleep so low on health, he is worried to go back into the fight. Again, his health bar's half full, but half of Jojo's health and half of Treleep's health are two very different numbers. Jojo's got 4,600 health. Treleep's got like 1,500. There's a difference when they are at the halfway point.
That is basically 5 health bars for every one of Treleep's. If you look at the size of that unit,
absolute unit.
They will absolutely charge. Though he's flexing the size of himself there. Look, that is an amazing coincidence because they are 3 minutes ahead of us. The fact that he's flexing while we're talking about him is purely coincidence. But
no shot he didn't just slip on his keyboard. But yeah, we're 3 minutes behind, right? Like we're watching this on a delay. But what's important is
showboater's always a showboater.
True. Like I said, he's gonna have a bit of fun with it. So now Roehampton have started to get themselves into they've been doing it for a while. They're in a much better position, but what we've seen is that Leicester really struggle to get through what you call the front line, the big units, the people like Jojo. They're really struggling to deal with these on the Roehampton side. It is absolutely massive. Again, that's a good indicator of how strong someone is. The person that's best suited to take them down is Treleep. So you have to keep your eyes on him, and likewise keep your eyes on Savagery, who is the biggest damage source for the team, because he can just take out Treleep, who, let's be honest, kind of threw himself into that fight. And Savagery capitalizes on it very well. Now the anchor comes out and connects onto Fallen Rain, but Fallen Rain is able to get out of that one alive. Low health for R7, but not for Jojo, who's happy to just walk it up. But look at that, 40 seconds on the next Dragon Spawn.
Top left-hand corner of the screen is where you want to be paying your attention to. 30 seconds time. It's so close. If they pick this up, this is an amazing comeback.
That's a huge comeback for Roehampton. Well, to be honest, they did a great job of stabilizing like 10 minutes in. From that point, Roehampton really have been in the lead. Again, off the back of Savagery. But the way that these fights go is essentially, if you're someone that does damage, you either do lots of damage up front, or you do it sustained over a period of time.
Oh, no!
Jojo's fine. He's got 5k health. He's chilling. So the issue for Leicester, the issue for Leicester here is that they don't have enough of the sustained damage to get through Jojo, who is big and beefy, except for Treleep. And so Savagery, again, just takes out Treleep in one hit every fight. He knows his job, but because Savagery's a little bit distracted, and because Desco isn't in the fight, Carelester are actually able to pull something out here and pick up some kills. But now Desco has rejoined the fight. It was a 4 versus 5, and he's able to clean it up a little bit for his team and equalize that one out, which is a great pun as a 4 versus 4-4-4 trade.
A beautiful pun, but they did more than just equalize.
Really end the game.
They're nice and ahead because
he just can. He is absolutely just melting. And that's the tank, that's the big shield dude. That's the guy that's meant to live through these kinds of things. And so Desco is now on his own trying to take out the opponent's base. He is incredibly strong. He's got the help of his minions, but with Treleep coming up in 10 seconds, Desco could have a pretty good shot at this. I don't think Treleep can stop him as an individual, although Treleep does. Treleep has the exhaust.
Oh, he's missed it!
He's missed it, but Treleep took all his damage. Face tanked it. Doesn't use the exhaust, running on in there, and Desco can end the game alone.
Oh my word!
Picking up the dub for Roehampton.
That was so much damage. He
Wow,
missed his
just
key
bopped him.
ability and just still melted them in like
And-
half a second.
I can't stress enough. That's not really like that's a lot of damage. The guy that was significantly snowballed. You do not usually take out Treleep in essentially
Clicked
2
one
hits.
single button.
Yeah. No, well, he pressed the same button twice.
He did click 2 buttons. To be
Wait,
fair.
did he? No, he needed a tick of Q as well, right?
It was
Like one tick of his
EQ.
Q?
It was EQ. I
Yeah,
think.
it was EEQ. In either case, it's a lot of damage. But great game for Roehampton there. Again, Savagery was doing really well on his own. We were putting a lot of attention down to the bottom half of the map to watch R7 and Treleep because Treleep was getting the advantage. But though, if you imagine a sort of a triangle of interaction here, you have assassin characters like what Savagery was playing. They do very well at taking out those glass cannons that Coach mentioned earlier on, which are characters like Treleep. But when Treleep is very good at doing the sustained damage, and especially the character he chose in particular, is really good at taking out the big, beefier characters who can take out the assassins, because the assassins, sure, they can drop 2,000 damage in under a second, which is more than enough to kill Treleep, but it's never enough to kill Jojo. And what we're
it's a
seeing
bit of a
in those
rock,
fights
paper,
is
scissors.
that, yeah, it's a rock paper scissors. It's a cheeky little triangle. But the way that we saw this pan out is that Savagery was doing a great job of taking out Treleep before Treleep could sort of take out Jojo, and then Jojo was unkillable by anyone else on the team, partially because Savagery had done such a good job winning in isolation as a 1 versus 1 against his mark, that Fallen Rain was another person who would have been able to deal with Jojo, but he couldn't because of what Savagery has done. Hopefully we sort of paint the picture in those fights that keep your eyes on Treleep and Savagery, because if Savagery goes in on Treleep, the fight is won. If Treleep oversteps and allows Savagery to go for him, the fight is won. But had Savagery at any point, used his big ticket abilities to kill the wrong target, to not take out Treleep, those fights could have gone very differently. But Savagery played it really, really well. Treleep overstepped a little bit. Jojo was doing real good. As we said before, he was playing for the team a lot, so he took a lot of individual hits to go and assist his team. Fine, because he didn't let the lead against him snowball. Like, he would go off, fall down a couple of hundred gold, but not let that a couple hundred gold turn into a couple of thousand. It would sort of stay as his deficit would sort of look like this, and then it was flatline, and then go down a bit flatline, but it wouldn't sort of exponentially go down, which is really what you need.
And that's the veterans showing through there for Jojo.
Yeah,
they know what they can afford to sacrifice without actually being too much of an issue for the rest of the team, the long-term implications, just to keep the rest of the team alive and allow them to play really, really well. It's kind of like having a really strong fullback in a game of football where they're able to defend them, but also set up their attackers and just pretty much do everything. It's a proper display of captaincy, and also you really well pointed out the amount of skill that it takes to play this game, in that you're always teetering on the edge. A lot of these characters, particularly the Kiana that we saw played by Savagery that game, they're really hard to execute, because if you walk slightly too far or you miss a certain ability, you become very useless very quickly. And you have to be really careful to make sure you're acting on all of your moves and you're executing on all of the strategies, but also to make sure that the whole team's executing on that all at one time. So that's just a lot of credit to these players and both teams, honestly, because they both performed really well in terms of team cohesion, grouping up, and just shows a lot of maturity from these students.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great showing from both sides. Great work for Roehampton to bring it back, despite the fact that, again, they were supposed to be strong early. I think a good sign for Roehampton is that it didn't look too much like they were letting the early deficit get to them, especially, again, in the bottom lane. R7, his character is built entirely around being strong early and then snowballing. And if you don't... In fact, he's one of the only characters that has a sort of self-punishing mechanic involved.
Yeah, really
essentially,
unique.
Yeah, essentially he sort of builds up like a little bag of money, and then if he gets a kill, he can claim that money for himself. But if he dies, he loses that money forever. He doesn't lose money, but he loses that sort of potential to claim the bag. And this leads to a lot of people, when they play that character, and not being very happy with the game, to put it bluntly. Yeah, a lot of angry people on that one. So great work for R7 to and Roehampton to understand, hey, that win condition is done, so we're not playing around Raven. Let's go work with Savagery.
Yeah.
Let's work with the Rumble in the jungle as well.
And credit
so
to
on and so forth.
Roehampton, who were able to take that away. But it's not the end of these esports action for tonight. We're going to move over to some Valorant. And for the second half of this NSE Games Frenzy, sponsored by Barclays. And we're going to watch, I think it's Edge Hill University will be playing against...
sorry. It's the Stags are definitely one of the team.
It's Hertfordshire.
Oh, different Stags.
So Hertfordshire
Different
against Edge Hill University, and they will be putting on an equally exciting display of Valorant, which is another game made by the same game creator, but a very different experience.
Yeah, and Valorant should be a little bit easier for you guys to digest. It's pretty simple. It's a shooting game. You know, who's got the bigger gun? They're probably going to win it. Just shoot people in the head, and you're usually on top. There's a lower sort of barrier to entry and understanding for League. In any case, I hope we've done a good enough job to help you have some sort of understanding of what was going on here today. And yeah, that'll be it from us. Stick around for the Valorant. Other than that, not good night, but yeah, good evening.
That isn't sports, they said. When someone told you to stay in your lane, you knew the right answer. The mid. You wish competitors GLHF before the match begins, and hopefully you're dominating more often than not. Video games bring us closer, even when we're apart, and Barclays has seen this. From grassroots teams starting out to the pro circuit players, we're cheering on esports from the virtual stands. We know that gaming's many faces can truly make a positive impact. We're there with you, whether you're making the next great game or just looking forward to playing it. Squad up, we're Barclays.
This weekend at the British University Esports Championship, we have live stage finals. We have hundreds of students here from over 20 universities. 8 weeks of online play have led to this one moment. Just everything you could want in one weekend, it's jam-packed.
The finals were incredible. Like, walked in today and I was just blown away by just the standard of everything. It's been brilliant. I've had a really good day.
The level of competition here is intense. I've had so much fun participating in the tournament, from the online to the offline events, and to finally come here to finish it all off, I've had a great time.
Then you go on the stage, you see everyone, you see the setup. It's a bit scary, but once you get into that game, it's so intense, you're so focused, and to actually have the crowd there, you know, cheering when you do well, it's a great feeling.
The atmosphere's been super, super friendly today. It's really nice to see people from different unis getting to talk and link up, playing and getting along with each other, even though at the end of the day, we are all competing for that final prize.
It's not only about, you know, being really good, competing, being a pro. It's also about the social side of it. This opportunity to meet other people, have fun, and make friends.
Competing in the NSE Championship has been an amazing experience. Playing against people the whole season has been amazing, but the event itself has just been top class, really. It was perfect. Glad we grinded it the whole season.
We entered this tournament with not maybe a lot of experience. There's a couple of players on our team who have played at LANs before, but for the majority, none of us have had this opportunity. And obviously we come here today and we've won it, and NSE has enabled us to do that. It's just amazing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NSE Games Frenzy Invitational, brought to you by Barclays. I am Rook, and I'm joined by Hanno. As well, I'm really glad to be here for more university-level Valorant action.
Yeah, we've got a nice little game for everyone here today, and obviously, if you're not familiar with Valorant, we've got a little rundown we're going to do for you to just to give you a little explainer about the game, what you can expect to see, and maybe you'll be interested enough to maybe sign up next season. So, Rook, do you want to start us off with the very, very basics?
Well, first of all, if you know absolutely nothing about Valorant, but it's 5 versus 5, and it's a first-person tactical shooter. It is the best of 24, so that means you got to play to try and get 13 rounds, but if it hits 12-12, then you got to go to that overtime and play for 2 clean wins, just like in tennis. So try and get that advantage early and then push it. And obviously, when you get to that halftime, you actually swap over to the other side. There's an attack side and a defending side.
Yeah, the main objective of the two different sides is obviously different. So the attacking side, their objective is to take the spike and take that to a bomb site. There'll be 2 or more on each map that we see today. We're obviously only seeing one. You plant that spike in one of those bomb sites, and then a timer will start. It's about 45 seconds. Once that finishes, the bomb will explode, and that is the round 1 for the attackers. The defenders on the other side, they want to prevent the spike from exploding. Now, they can either do that through preventing its planted at all, wiping out the attacking team, or they can do that by defusing the bomb when it's on the ground. This can happen even if all the attacking team is alive. The attackers also have the option of wiping out the defenders. So there's essentially 2 sort of victory goals for each team, and they'll be dueling out throughout all the 24 rounds for the very same 2 bomb sites objectives to try and complete that. There are, I believe, 6 maps in the game, and we're going to be seeing a best of 1 here today, so we'll just be having 1 map, and we'll explain to you when we know what the map is, exactly the different mechanics of that map when we come to it.
Yeah, and obviously some of those maps are also sided towards the defenders or towards the attackers, but obviously something that's going to really impact exactly whether you're going to have a stronger attacking or defending side are the agents, because alongside the fact that you've obviously got guns and everything and all that sort of malarkey where you're going to try and shoot each other, you've also got agents which have a bunch of different abilities, which are also referred to as utility. And they can be anything from dashes, like Jet has, where she, well, obviously just dashes in a straight line, a grenade, like the paint shells of Rays, which throws out a grenade, it explodes, does damage, really hurts people. You've also got things like smokes, like Brimstone, who has the sky smokes, which you can tap on the map and then drop down to try and block off line of sight so you don't get shot through it, or get sprayed through the smoke sometimes as that happens. And there's also flashes, which if you see a flash, you go blind. So you can try and clear out an area. If someone's sitting there, you want to try and flash them and really take that away from them.
Yeah, there's also every single agent will has one particularly powerful ability. It's called an ultimate ability. You might know it from sort of Overwatch and other sort of similar games, League of Legends and stuff. They have an ultimate ability. In Valorant, it takes time to charge up. It's not like a time-based thing. You have to earn points towards that ultimate. Once you achieve 6 or 7 points towards your ultimate, you can get those points by killing, planting the spike, winning a round, and I believe even dying and losing a round gives you a point actually. But you can use those ultimates to great effect. So probably one of the ones you're more likely to see today. Killjoy has the ultimate lockdown. I know, apt in the current climate. That will lock down huge swathe of the map in a large circle. You'll be able to see it on the minimap. It appears in front of you. And if you stay in that circle, if the opposing team, stays in the circle, they will get stunned, a bunch of status effects, and they won't be able to shoot back. They won't be able to move very quickly, and it's an incredibly dangerous ability if not countered properly. There's also Run It Back, which is probably one of the easier ultimates to explain and to conceptualize, which is this is Phoenix ult. So he will pop it, and he'll run straight into the battlefield, and if he dies, he's going to be returned to the spot that he popped his ultimate. It's essentially a really good entry tool, and one of the stronger ultimates of the game. But I think we're now going to move on to economy, so I'll start a little bit, Rook, and then I'll hand it back to you. But obviously, weapons are very, very important in Valorant. There's a few quotes lying around there about how this game isn't just about abilities, precise gunplay is important. And obviously, to get those weapons, you're not just gifted them for free. There's not many freebies in Valorant. You're going to have to purchase them through money, which, Rook, how can you earn fat stacks of cash?
Well, first of all, by winning rounds, but also you earn a little bit less from losing rounds. So obviously, if you're winning, you can have a better economy and you're going to keep that advantage. Alongside that, obviously, killing players will also give you money. And also planting the bomb will get, or the spike, depending on what you want to call it, will also get you some extra money if you're on that attacking side. So when you get that, you then spend it on, for example, guns, abilities, as we kind of talked before, and also armor, which means you're a little bit harder to kill. And that's something to always keep an eye on whether players have that armor. And that's why economy can make a really big difference.
Yeah, so we've just been confirmed the map is going to be Ascent. So I think we could do a little bit of a talk about Ascent here as well. Essentially, you're going to see 3 large areas of the map. There'll be a middle section, an A section, and a B section, which will all be marked on the map. And you're sort of looking towards these A and B sites as to where most of the action is going to happen. One of the things to note with Ascent is that on either site, there is a little door that can be closed and raised from a control panel. That's the sort of gimmick of Ascent in particular. So other maps have sort of teleporters or a third bomb site or lots of different things. But for Ascent, just keep an eye on those doors. They can be shot out and walked through, but they are very, very important for understanding the flow of the map. But I believe we're actually ready to go into Aegiselect, which is faster than I was expecting. But here you go, everybody. So we should give you a rundown of the teams. Rook, do you want to start us off?
Well, obviously, on the right-hand side, representing Hertfordshire, we have Raccoon Pope, Swise, Gum China, Lychee, and Blink. And this is a very stacked roster. Some great players here. Very excited to see more from Swise, who has had a really impressive performance recently. A lot of great play from him in the uni.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this TMS side, Hertfordshire, really, really strong. But on the other side, we haven't got a slouches either. We've got, this is Edge Hill University, a team that I haven't actually seen that much of, and I'm quite excited to see them here today because they finished, I believe, 7th in the previous NSE season. So they're certainly strong contenders and definitely, could put Hertfordshire here in with a run for their money. Got a few players here as well. Flame, Tops, Granna, Ormrod, Jonesy Z, and Picton 98. So, Brooke, I'm pretty excited to see these teams duel it out. Now, my instant expectation is that this Hertfordshire side on the right here is a little bit stronger as they finish top 4 in the NSE season. But, well, maybe we don't have time for predictions. Let's talk about the agents, Rook, because there's been some nice picks here.
Really have been interesting to see that on the Edge Hill side, we've not picked a Sentinel, which is someone, for example, like Killjoy, as you see at the bottom of the side, on the attacking side. This is really good at locking down sites and denying people from pushing on. It has pre-placed grenades, which are obviously going to deal a lot of damage if you're standing on top of them, and even a turret trying to sway players from moving on in. So things like that make that defending side a little bit better. But as a result, they've kind of traded off for a better attacking side. They've got more flashes. They're going to have more information off the back of Sky, the lady with the green hairband, and from Sova, the man with the white hair, who gets you a lot of information from having a drone, which can look around, and also an arrow, which spots out players.
Yeah, Raccoon Pope there as well on Sova. He's a particularly strong Sova player, if I remember correctly, from the last time I saw this Hertfordshire side. So these guys certainly with a strong little lineup. The Phoenix there as well for the run it back on the Hertfordshire side. And Gum China, you can see on Jet. Lychee is playing Omen. And all of these characters can have a huge impact on the game. There's different sections that they're more important in. Looks like we have got a pause coming out here in the first round. So this is something that can happen, especially in tournament games sort of like this, where we are going to, if a team encounters a technical difficulty, we're going to have a short pause while we figure out what is going on before we can commence straight into the game. And hopefully it's going to be quite the game. We can already see a little bit of setup here from the Stags towards that A site. They have dropped a turret there, which leads me to believe that they're not going to be charging willy-nilly into A, but it could potentially, from the way it's facing, be looking to cover their flank, which is something that does happen quite often, especially in pistol rounds. People aren't afraid to charge out, take a fight, because there's not going to be a lot of utility here on the Edge Hill side to stop the Stags encroaching onto that A site.
Yeah, as we said before, because they don't have that Sentinel, they don't have a lot of control over specific areas. They can still play aggressively. They could smoke off and deny a lot of different lines of sight when other opponents are trying to push on through, making it very difficult. Because obviously, if you're running onto a site, trying to attack somewhere, and you can't see anything, that's never really going to go well, is it? Yeah. So trying to do that as a way to respond to players and discourage them from pushing on, because as a defender, time is obviously your ally. You want to try and burn through that clock, because if it hits 0 and the spike, the bomb, has not gone down, you're going to pick up a win for free, right?
Yeah, a nice little free win as well. You know, that's sort of a bonus victory objective, I suppose, is running down the time. Well, it does definitely look like they're going to be charging out here. They're all stacking up here towards this position. And Edge Hill, as you can see, normally they're going to be spreading their players quite... Oh, we've got the end of the timeout here instantly. Okay, smoke's going to get dropped by Edge Hill, and the drone going to be coming out. Not going to spot anything, but by knowing that drone has been destroyed, Jones is going to know that there are some Mighty Stags players just on the other side of that wall. Now, he's going to sensibly, I believe, back off here. Flame gets a bit of information in middle. Takes a little bit of damage onto the Jet. Swise can't quite find anything. Gets dinked in return. It looks like this A push is starting to head off.
Yeah, they're going to be able to throw that smoke in and dash. That's what Jet can do. She brings a lot of movement, and instantly the Mighty Stags have made it on. A flash comes back towards them, but they will at least be able to get this plant down. And now the advantage is massively in their favor. 5 players to 3, and Edge Hill and Vine don't necessarily have a lot of ways to get on very well as they push on in Flame Falls. And, well, there is a refrag, a trade coming in where they get a player back for it, but it's still very difficult for Omerod to drop down here because there are 2 players just constantly looking at him, and they will eventually be able to deal with him. A great first round for Mighty Stags, and we were talking about the economy earlier. Just how important is that first round to the economy?
Well, the first round usually means that if you pick up that round, you're going to have a huge economy advantage over your opponents. Enough, in fact, that you can sort of afford to buy some sort of light machine guns, some SMGs, maybe even a low-caliber sniper. Some of these weapons are incredibly powerful, not as powerful as potentially sort of some of the weapons you'll see later in the game. The rifles and the heavy caliber sniper rifles are sort of out of your reach economically. But if you win this round, you can afford the better weapons, and you should normally be able to pick up round 2. So Mighty Stags here going to be looking to pick up the second round here relatively easily. Now, they're not going to be unopposed. As you see there, Picton trying to walk out, or doing the same. They're trying to use those pistols to find a pick, because their main objective here is to pick up some weaponry. And Flame, oh, he manages to do it. He picks up an SMG by using a shotgun variant of the classic pistol.
Yeah, it gets that little bit of extra damage in, getting up and close, and now they've got a huge advantage. Flame is forced off. That was the flash we were talking about before, and it allows them so much control. The economic advantage from the Mighty Stags there meant they had that better weaponry, and they moved on in. Some of you eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed, if you're not so confident with video games, that if a player gets shot in the head, they're going to take more damage. There are 3 sections of players. Some people don't necessarily know. So there's the headshot, there's a body shot, and then there's a leg shot. All 3 of these deal deal different damage. So headshot is most, body shot is second most, and then the legs, well, if you get shot in the foot, I mean, obviously it will allow you to dodge the draft, but it won't. It's gonna hurt. It won't kill you, mate. Come on, get on with it.
Dodging the draft is the only reason anyone will ever get shot in the leg, apparently. Oh, and that's a nice play, though, if you see there from Ormrod. He actually threw out a Sova arrow, one of the nicer pieces of utility there. And what it does is it sends out a radar scan, and anyone in this radius will be highlighted through walls. And then Ormrod, using a very high penetration Odin weapon here, sprayed through and picked up the kill. So this is round 3, obviously. Both teams have relatively strong weaponry. And it looks like the Mighty Stags might be facing their first loss of the match. As Swise goes down, that's a huge player down for TMS, and Gum China as well. Edge Hill Rook, they've just picked up their first round and using some very nice LMG strats indeed.
Yeah, just to explain that very shortly is, well, if you have a bigger, mightier weapon, it's going to be able to shoot through those skinny little walls. And there are a couple of different types of walls, but generally you can shoot through wood with most things. But then brick walls are a little bit harder. But things like the LMG, as we kind of mentioned, the Odin that Ormrod has in their hands right now, really can do it. It's a really effective strategy if you have that information. And this is something that we see teams do, is when they're well coordinated and when they get good information, things are very much in their favor. But Swise, he doesn't care about info. He's just going for players here. A good flash actually coming back towards him means he is now stuck in a difficult spot. He's trying to peek out wide. Jonesy is pushing up on him. Here's the ultimate, the run it back that allows him to get a second chance. But the sprays are there, and there were too many players from Edge Hill in a bind, and they completely destroyed that attempt to push from Mighty Stags.
That was a nice little read from Edge Hill. They put 3 players towards A. Ormerod. They're struggling to find the kill on Blink. Blink, another really strong player who's had his moments in previous matches before. Raccoon Pope, though, picks up the Omen kill there. Scranner is going to go down, and it should mean that Mighty Stags are going to be able to get back and pick up that spike. Blink does fall there, Flame finding a nice headshot, and Raccoon Pope, it looks like he's given up on chance of the spike. He's just looking for kills, and he finds one. That's a nice flick onto the head of Jonesy.
Yeah, he manages to put his cursor right in there in just that little portion of time. As a result, he's able to manage to get some kind of opportunity. He doesn't have a huge opportunity, 35 seconds on the clock, and obviously with his position pretty much known, things are going to be very difficult, and that is that. Edge Hill using the fact that they have numbers and great buddy play in order to deal with that situation.
Yeah, that was a good little comeback there. A couple of rounds there from the Edge Hill side. They're now just opting to pick up a Judge as well on the Scranner there. He's going to have... that's an automatic shotgun, and honestly, Rook, I think it's underappreciated. I've seen a lot of players use that weapon to great effect. I believe the most famous one in the university scene would be Fornic on the Omen plays. That is a terrifying prospect to come up against, is Fornic on the old Judge. So this thing can be very, very effective, especially on an Omen who can sort of teleport into those corners, be unexpectedly firing a huge amount of pellets from behind. Ormerod, though, swings out and gets double peeked. Blink gonna take his head off, and looks like Mighty Stags are now gonna go straight into the B push.
They don't have a huge amount of HP, but Flame with the superior weaponry takes Blink off right away, and well, Swise now knows that things don't exactly look peachy for them. However, with that ultimate, with those knives, trying to try to get aggressive. It's a strong ultimate that allows you to get good damage out when you don't have a weapon, but unfortunately, again, the 2 players and the coverage from Edge Hill and Divine means they can deal with this so darn well. Flame goes for another flash and tries to make it happen, but Lychee guesses as well. It even goes for a second and a third helping with a beautiful number of frags. Now, the Mighty Stags are back in control of this round, and Top Scranner is going to have to work overtime in order to pick this up, especially because the weapon that they've got in hand is that shotgun we were talking about before.
But Pope is playing very close to this smoke. Oh, and he lands it! Top Scranner with 1 versus 1 against Lychee here. Lychee already on a triple kill, but it doesn't matter! Scranner finds his head with the shotgun, and that's the power of that thing in close quarters, and well, Lychee had a good start to that round, but it's not enough, Rook.
It really isn't. And again, we talked about that weapon in close quarters combat can absolutely terrifying, as we saw as he took out Raccoon Pope. The Judge is scary. And Top Scranner then went, okay, well, that final remaining player in Lychee is very low, so doesn't have much HP, hit points left. So just a single tap from any of those pellets from the shotgun will be able to deal with him pretty easily. So a really nicely played round from them, despite the fact that Mighty Stags looked like they were in control.
Yeah, I mean, now with the lead, this isn't necessarily, you know, a terrible state for Stags, obviously. They're going to be trying to eco in different rounds and buy on different rounds now, depending upon the state of their economy. And at this point, it looks like we are into a buy round. Now this... Oh, there we go, Swires taking their head. This round is pretty important here for the Stags. They want to deny any kind of momentum from Edge Hill. Jones is going to get shut down as well. It looks like Edge Hill getting a little bit overconfident here. Stags going into B.
Yeah, well, taking those players off the board means that they now have a lot of map control over this B side and the left-hand side of the map. And Flame had to push in to try and deny the round, to try and pick up something, but Raccoon Pope manages to pick him up, and, well, it's another round on the board for the Mighty Stags. Now, you were talking earlier about how the maps play out. There's a couple of different gimmicks, and also what side they are. How do you feel about Ascent in terms of which side is stronger?
In my opinion, I've always preferred the defensive side now on Ascent, or sorry, in sort of recent patches. I've preferred the defensive side in Ascent. I understand that there are some strong angles that the attackers can use, but it feels very much once the defensive side builds that economy, they can really effectively lock down such large portions of the map that the attackers don't have much of a chance. Picton and Jonesy here going to go down straight away, and Stags picking up kills all the way across the map.
Way too gung-ho on that A site, but the B site is at least a success for Edge Hill and Abine. They're now only down one player, so they're not too far behind, but with this spike going down, things might get a little rough for them. Sensible play here from Lychee, goes and picks up the ultimate orb, so is closer towards their ultimate ability, which could be useful later on. Now, Flame, making sure there's no one in mid, is starting to move over towards that A site, and Lychee is waiting in a very cheeky angle.
Might actually clear him here. Oh, he's going to turn away just as Ormrod comes around the corner. So unfortunate. And, Lychee does win out the duel.
Yeah, it goes back for a second helping. Flame peeks out, gets a spray, but unfortunately, when you hold down that left click for a long time, when you try and shoot out a bullet, eventually your spray will go a little bit wildly. So the bullets won't go exactly where you want them to, and that means that that longer range, he's not quite able to hit it.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to control sprays in Valorant, especially as there's an element of randomness that gets introduced into your sprays. So it can be very, very difficult to handle those guns, which makes it even more impressive when players pull off big multi-kills. Lychee there sitting on 8 kills, I believe the top fragger of the server, so he's doing well so far out of the last 7 rounds. Blink gonna swing the corner, spots out the player, but not gonna find the kill.
Yeah. Flash goes in, and Lychee already picks up Ormrod here. Looks like a lot of aggression towards the B site. They're going to use those smokes to block off some key positions here, but Flame is still in a good spot to try and pick one of them up, but tries to escape as he gets caught out in a difficult position, and unfortunately can't get enough out of it. Top Scranner was in a great position, but couldn't land that headshot. Unfortunately, the pistol not quite as strong as the rifle, and as a result, he is going to lose out on that duel. Jonesies is now looking for their chance to push, but waiting for the rest of their team to get in position as well.
Player standing.
Oh, a nice shot from Blink. Jones is going to go down. It's just picked and left. Not sure much is going to be done here. The dash away to try and save his own life. Not going to be successful, and the TMS back to their 2-round win state. And if you can see on the agents at the top right, the Mighty Stags, with the 3 yellow bars above their agents, they have 3 ultimates available, including that Killjoy lockdown. And one of the nice things on Ascent here is that actually there's some very nice spots towards A long and even in the B tunnels area where you can drop that ultimate ability, that lockdown, and you're going to close off pretty much the entire site and force those defenders to play retake. And that's not a position that they want to be in at all. So it is going to be interesting to see how they decide to utilize this. That's going to be Blink, obviously, player to use it. Oh, a huge amount of damage onto Blink. He might not have a chance to use the lockdown, but no, 3 HP, he's going to drop it.
Yeah, really good usage here of Swise pushing in. Means that he can't try and spray more of those players through the wall and deny that ultimate. Gumchina will still try and contest, but Jonesy manages to win out the duel with a little bit of backup to shoot out the door that would have otherwise been there. A lot of control, though, here for the Mighty Stags because they used that ultimate, and they're even going to pick off Flame, who was wide out in the open. Big mistakes here. And now Edge Hill and the bottom, they're down a player, and have to try and force their way on through here. A great flash used. Now they're going to cut off some of these last remaining players. It's just Pickton versus the world, and, well, when he's versus the world, he's got too many players to deal with.
Yeah, 1 versus 3 doesn't usually go in that particular person's favor, so Edge Hill gonna lose out that round, but a good round from the Mighty Stags yet again. That lockdown, very, very strong. Blink surviving with just 3 HP. If Ormrod had maybe hit the chest or the head through that wall, or even just hit another bullet, that round might have gone very differently, because without that lockdown, those defenders of Edge Hill could have stayed on the B site, and, well, it would have been a lot harder to take.
Yeah, they would have been waiting with their guns, and, well, the Mighty Stags would have been pretty much sitting ducks as they moved on, and instead they were able to just get that control and play from there. Pickton trying to maybe get something here as we see that Sova ultimate come out. It fires a long beam to try and tag up some of these players and hit them and take them down, but doesn't lead to enough. Blink has managed to sneak up into that B site, and again, they are playing for control of this middle area. Raccoon Pope just wants to try and land these shots, but Pickton was waiting for his teammate or Blink to go on that flank, and even goes for Raccoon Pope there, who just was not respecting him. 2 versus 3 now, but you can see that Lychee is not on the site. He's instead going to pick up top Scranner. He's got to haul his butt back towards here, because right now his teammate is 1 versus 2. Make that 1 versus 1, and Lychee has even come to join with his ultimate, which allows him to teleport, and the Mighty Stags are off to a cracking start here on the attacking side.
Yeah, we're most of the way through this first half. Just those 2 rounds remaining, as you can see on the scoreboard. And the Mighty Stags with a 4-round lead and no signs of stopping. Look at those two top players or even the top 3 players. Lychee with 12, Swise with 10, Raccoon Pope with 9 for himself. Their KD's pretty mad. The economy as well. You can see Raccoon buying that operator there costs you 5,000 credits. He's still got 3k in the bank, and everyone else absolutely made of money. So the money tree is growing in the Mighty Stags courtyard. Jonesy misses the ultimate, not going to be able to find anything with that. That's so unfortunate for him. He was hoping to pick up a couple of weapons off that. But he's got some util and some info, at least.
Yeah, but speaking about info, Swise has just pushed up mid. I might just take info for an answer. He'll take Ormerod too. Oh, you can see an attempt from Picton here to try and hold things out. The Mighty Stags are just putting so much pressure on. They're keeping up the tempo, continually looking for aggression here, and even contesting plays in positions they really shouldn't be. Jonesy wants to try and find it, does get the spray, and that's 1 kill on the board, but it's only 1, and he jumps into the waiting arms of Raccoon Pope on this sniper. Now it's Top Scranner yet again with this judge, but this time he's got a couple more obstacles.
Yeah, 1v4, slightly different to 1v1. Oh, he spots Blink, but he doesn't really have a clear shot. As he's pulling out the gun, he obviously can't fire it, and Blink there. Gonna take the kill. Stags, yet another round for themselves. The current scoreline, as you can see, 8-3. Still Swise, Lychee, and Raccoon propping up that scoreboard. Bit of a performance from these lads. Blink as well. Honestly, this is slightly less close than I'd hoped the matchup would be so far. But again, Edge Hill, when they swap over after this round, obviously we'll have the sides swapping. They'll be on the attack, and maybe they can bring something that we weren't expecting to this attacking side. Both teams here will have played a lot of Ascent before. This is a map that, because it's the best of one, will have ended up on a map which at least both teams have played or at least comfortable with. This isn't a map that they're always going to be banning. And in comes the push.
Indeed, it does. Swise is going to move on in with his run it back. He's going to get sent back in just a second because he hasn't found any enemies here, but they're going to be able to plant. And that means they're now in control, and they're the ones who are going to have to defend this position. It's now down to Edge Hill to push on in here. They get a good frag to kick things off. Their position completely given away here. And now they're going to have to push on in. Make sure there's no one below them as these snipers are just dueling it out. He's now going to push aggressively as Raccoon Pope is trying to buy that time with their ultimate. It's 2 versus 3. They're both in this same angle. He's got some pre-placed utility to deal with it. Blink uses that nade we were talking about earlier to try and deny, but Ormerod is forced out into the open, takes down Raccoon Pope, who tries to contest them, but with a half charge on this, he almost makes it, but Blink hits him in the head, takes him down, and the Mighty Stags with such a brilliant first half. 9 rounds to 3. They're only 4 rounds from picking up this game.
I loved that utility usage from Raccoon and Blink there. That was perfect combos from the two of them. Raccoon using his ultimate ability to prevent players from pushing too aggressively and to also deny that spike defuse. But then also Blink can drop that Killjoy can drop these sort of nano swarms, I believe they're called, onto the ground. They're a little bit like Molotovs from Brimstone, and they're so effective. They could not get onto that spike to defuse it. Edge Hill in such a difficult position there because Killjoy, wow, it's something you don't want to be staring down in any sort of situation when the spike is planted because the power of a utility is never stronger.
Really isn't. Raccoon Pope already kicked things off with a good old headshot. Now, with Picton down, they're really going to have to get aggressive. They take down 1, but Blink at least manages to get a kill back. And now it's Edge Hill with a lot of control here. A good flash from Swise, but gets caught out by that grenade. Great stuff from Jonesy's to know exactly what they're looking at. But as China dashes that little bit too far, they're worried about these flanks and don't expect Top Scranner to be coming from a more normal position.
Both those players left on Edge Hill with just sort of 10 HP there. So that was a very close round that could have really gone either way. But unfortunately, Swise, I believe it was, right, getting caught out by that rage grenade and a couple of other players as well. The jet dash in, not quite working as they'd hoped. Getting caught out as well. But it's a very strong start for Edge Hill, picking up the first round off the Mighty Stags. Obviously, you're going to have an equal economy there in the first round, but here coming to the second, it's not going to be the case. So Edge should be able to pick up this round as well. They're sticking together. They don't want to get picked off by these pistols, and there it goes. Swise and Gumshiner both picking up a kill.
We're talking about how important this round, that first round, is for Economy, and the second round should very easily be the team who wins it. But Edge Hill, getting picked off early, finds themselves in a massive disadvantage. Look at Blink trying to get the cheeky play, going the whole way around the map to get a flanking attack. Will even get that kill on. Oh no, doesn't finish. Jonesy whiffs the shot, does not manage to hit it, and as a result, now Edge Hill really do have an opportunity, but they push into Swise, and that headshot, because it deals so much damage, takes another player off the board. It's 2 pushing into 4 now, and with that mathematical disadvantage, things get very, very rough. But Top Scranner decides, otherwise it's back to 1 versus 2 with him going down, and Jonesy is gonna have to play it well. Has a lot of time to work with, can even pop the store, but doesn't expect there to be 2 there. Gets the headshot, but it doesn't quite kill. That SMG doesn't quite kill a player from full HP, and that's what really bit him in the behind.
I think we've got to hand that around there over to Swise, picking up 2 kills with that Ghost. A very strong weapon in his hands. He finds those headshots, and TMS doing a great job there. You know, second round, it is a sort of vulnerable round because it looked like the way Edge Hill played it, they were very, very open to being flashed, to being picked off, and the trading potential wasn't there. In that A-long position, they just had 2 players alone, and a flash, it can blind as many players as look at it, and 2 players there getting full blind is not what Edge Hill really should have let happen. They should have been playing a little bit safer. They should expect TMS to be buying, and it looks like these rifles here for the Mighty Stags are proving fatal as Edge Hill trying to combat them, but it's not happening.
Yeah, it's so much advantage when you've got that weaponry, but they managed to spray on through. The SMG has a lot of bullets being spat out of it, which can easily connect and give you that kind of advantage. And Jonesy even has a rifle in hand. You can pick up your opponent's weapons when they go down and, well, claim them for your own, and now turn their advantage into, well, very much yours. Gumchina starting to hold this angle, expecting that push from mid. Edge Hill playing very slowly here, using that drone that we were talking about earlier to get that info and then try and make a play off the back of that information.
He's going to be walking through here, not going to spot anything light. She might spot out Ormerod. I'm sure he doesn't because he's behind the box, but he does find Scranner. And that's a huge pick and so much information in their hands.
Yeah, and Lychee now knows where Ormerod is as well because of those shots traded back and forth. Means that they're very much split, and with the timer going down 25 seconds, seems like a lot, but it really can be little to nothing. Jonesy gets the frag. That means they've taken out an all-important player. They're going to rush onto this A site.
No.
Keep an eye on Raccoon Pope, because they've got a perfect position, and they're going to take their team to 11 rounds. That has to hurt for Edge Hill.
So unfortunate, Edge Hill. Yeah, they really, they in that situation with so little time left, they were sort of forced towards A. Unluckily for them, there were 2 players towards this A site, and Raccoon Pope playing up towards that heaven position had no qualms about sort of standing tucked in a corner, waiting for those players to run on in. Because with such limited time, they had to get the spike down, had to keep the round timer going. They really didn't have much time to check at all. So, a 7-round lead here, Rook, for the Mighty Stags. Well, they are technically 2 rounds here off a victory. And with a shot like that from Raccoon Pope, it just might be 2 rounds. Jonesy does sort of get a response. Ormerod with a further response there over towards B. Actually, this round might not be the Mighty Stags at all, as Edge Hill picking up 2 quick response kills. And with the spike towards B and only 1 player for Stags here, this could be Edge Hill's comeback round.
Point and rebuttal is the idea for Edge Hill here, and they don't have that Sentinel on B as well, who's really good at locking down those positions. Instead, it's going to be this Omen, who is a controller, who puts down those smokes and denies the line of sight, but you still need a player to be watching it, and he has been completely tricked. Edge Hill had a lot of players towards that A site. That's where they found their kills early on here. And as a result, Mighty Stags went, well, that must be where they are. Edge Hill, they have thrown them for a loop. It was all an elaborate ruse. And it's just going to be a straight push onto the B site now. And they'll be able to get that spike down. And now the Mighty Stags are going to be in a very disadvantageous position.
An elaborate ruse indeed, as all 3 players from the Stags are going to have to be playing this as a retake. It is 3v4, quite a difficult retake to pull off. Never mind the fact that they don't even have control of market. That is going to be Lychee towards Orbit. Lychee gets picked off, doesn't able to clear the angle. Picton finds another, and Top Scranner, the player towards market, comes out behind Raccoon Pope, and no chance of the Stags saving any of those weapons. Edgehill still got a long way to go. There's still a 6-round gap, but if they keep picking up rounds in that fashion, it's not too much of an ask.
It really isn't. And to explain quickly what a save is, if you're losing a round, you still have your guns, right? And if you survive a round, you still keep those guns going to the next round. So if you have these guns and you're not going to win the round anyway, some teams might choose to just try and hide, to make sure they survive to that next round and try and keep the gun. That's a save. And it's a very sensible economic decision. You know, we've got to be fiscally prudent here, having Barclays involved in this stream and all. So, you know what? We condone that decision.
Yeah, saving your money is always a good strategy. And Gum China there, finding a shot. He doesn't need any money to pull out this ultimate, and it's very, very strong. One-shot headshots at pretty extreme range, and he's using it to great effect as he finds Ormrad, and he finds Victor, and he finds Jonesy! What a play from Gum China. Just one player left this ultimate. He finds the 5th! Gum China, you absolute legend! What was that? We haven't seen much from him most of this game, but he completely turns the whole round on its head. Absolute beautiful play. I haven't seen something like that since sort of my first few weeks of casting when I saw F22 pull off crazy knife blades. That's Gum China in tip-top form.
You love to see it. Great plays from that Jet there. And a very flashy agent as well. Someone you've always got to keep your eye on because they got those dashes to get themselves in the right position for plays like that. Loving the aggression, and the Mighty Stags proving just how strong a squad they are. Pope under a bit of pressure here as Picton has already pushed on in, playing that Jet themselves. They're already behind the composition. And with the refrag coming through from Gunchar, at least there's something. These rockets are ever so scary, and Jonesy sends a hell of a lot their way. These explosions, ever so scary. Marauders looking to push on out here. They've got the backup from Jonesy, but Blink is watching it with the rest of their team. That advantage Edgehill had, well, now it's, well, nothing. Scranner's going to be able to teleport away, but has put themselves in a very difficult position regardless. Flame has got to play the game of their life, the round of their life, but it just ain't happening. And with this defuse coming on through, the Mighty Stags will move up to 13 rounds to 5 and pick up this match.
A huge round from the Mighty Stags there, winning out this map here. What a beautiful game that we've played here. And honestly, Edgehill, they put in a good attempt, but they had some beautiful rounds as well. But when Gum China pulls off a 5 headshot Jet ult like that in the middle of mid, I don't really know if there's a response that Edgekill could bring out to that. TMS, the Mighty Stags here, very, very strong team with some particularly strong players. Blink having a really good showing. Gum China, obviously, some standout rounds. And obviously, I mean, Swise, their sort of top player, indeed having a great performance as well. So that was a lovely game to see from Hertfordshire. They're still in form and probably very ready for the NSE summer season.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Not just the summer season, also next year. I'm very excited for all of the university esports we're going to get to see. And I mean, everyone at home really should be too. Valorant has been an absolute corker. And obviously, you guys got to see some League of Legends earlier, which, I mean, we have a strong history of that here in the UK, and definitely excited to see even more. But a lot of great teams as well to keep your eyes on in Valorant. It's a young scene in terms of, well, everything, but especially in terms of the university scene. And it's just so chock full of plays like that. Gum China obviously showed up right at the end there, but that's just a glimpse of what you really get to see.
Yeah, it's always wonderful to watch these teams face off, and they're relatively, these aren't even necessarily the top 2 teams in NSE. We've got a top 4 team and a team that came 7th, and they both put on a beautiful performance. A little bit of a gap, but we'll put that down to it being Ascent for now, and maybe in a full best of 3, it will be a lot closer. But honestly, wonderful play to see there, and thank you everyone so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed that game showcase there. Hopefully, we will be back with a summer season, sort of where you can see a lot more of these games in the future. Yeah. NSE runs a whole lot of Valorant, as Rook said, and it's always great to see these players and see the support come out for these players. So, Rook, do you want to finish us off with a little bit of a thank you as well?
Well, obviously, thank you very much, and you are my co-caster. Yeah. Also, thank you to Jakey Boy Pro, our producer, and to Harrison, our observer, who was obviously, both of them bringing us fantastic visuals on your end. And don't forget, if you want to get involved with NSE, you can check the Facebook, search for National Student Esports. Also, Instagram NSE_GG. The same thing for Twitter, and the website is NSE.GG. And you should be able to find a lot of stuff there. And obviously, sponsored by Barclays, who were absolutely fantastic in helping us bring this to you. And check out their Twitter at Barclays Games, as they have been getting involved in a lot of different esports stuff, and it's great to see them and other non-endemic sponsors getting involved in the scene. I hope you all had a wonderful evening. I hope you enjoyed both the Valorant and the League of Legends. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Good night.
That isn't sports, they said. When someone told you to stay in your lane, you knew the right answer. The mid. You wish competitors GLHF before the match begins, and hopefully you're dominating more often than not. Video games bring us closer, even when we're apart, and Barclays has seen this. From grassroots teams starting out to the pro circuit players, we're cheering on esports from the virtual stands. We know that gaming's many faces can truly make a positive impact. We're there with you, whether you're making the next great game or just looking forward to playing it. Squad up, we're Barclays.
This weekend at the British University Esports Championship, we have live stage finals. We have hundreds of students here from over 20 universities. 8 weeks of online play have led to this one moment. Just everything you could want in one weekend. It's jam-packed.
The finals were incredible. I walked in today and I was just blown away by just the standard of everything. It's been brilliant. I've had a really good day.
The level of competition here is intense. I've had so much fun participating in the tournament, from the online to the offline events, and to finally come here to finish it all off, I've had a great time.
Then you go on the stage, you see everyone, you see the setup. It's a bit scary, but once you get into that game, it's so intense, it's so focused, and to actually have the crowd there, cheering when you do well, it's a great feeling.
The atmosphere's been super friendly today. It's really nice to see people from different unis getting to talk and link up, playing and getting along with each other, even though at the end of the day we are all competing for that final prize.
It's not only about, being really good, competing, being a pro. It's also about the social side of it. This opportunity to meet other people, have fun, and make friends.
Competing in the NSE Championship has been an amazing experience. Playing against people the whole season has been amazing, but the event itself has just been top class, really. It was perfect. Glad we grinded it the whole season.
We entered this tournament with not maybe a lot of experience. There's a couple of players on our team who have played at LANs before, but for the majority, none of us have had this opportunity. And obviously we come here today and we've won it, and NSE has enabled us to do that. It's just amazing.